Djibouti, officially the Republic of Djibouti, is a country located in the Horn of Africa. It is bordered by Eritrea in the north, Ethiopia in the west and south, and Somalia in the southeast. The remainder of the border is formed by the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden at the east. Djibouti occupies a total area of just 23,200 square kilometers. In antiquity, the territory was part of the land of Punt. Nearby Zila was the seat of the medieval Adal and Ifat sultanates. In the late 19th century, the colony of French Somaliland was established following treaties signed by the ruling Somali and Afar sultans with the French, and its railroad to Diadawa allowed it to quickly supersede Zila as the port for southern Ethiopia and the Ogaden. It was subsequently renamed to the French territory of the Afars and the Azes in 1967. A decade later, the Djiboutian people voted for independence. This officially marked the establishment of the Republic of Djibouti, named after its capital city. Djibouti joined the United Nations the same year, on September 20, 1977. In the early 1990s, tensions over government representation led to armed conflict, which ended in a power-sharing agreement in 2000 between the ruling party and the opposition. Djibouti is a multi-ethnic nation with a population of over 810,000 inhabitants. Arabic and French constitute the country's two official languages. About 94% of residents adhere to Islam, a religion that has been predominant in the region for more than 1,000 years. The Somali Issa and Afar make up the two largest ethnic groups. Both speak Afro-Asiatic languages, which serve as recognized national languages. Djibouti is strategically located near the world's busiest shipping lanes, controlling access to the Red Sea and Indian Ocean. It serves as a key refueling and transshipment center, and is the principal maritime port for imports to and exports from neighboring Ethiopia. A burgeoning commercial hub, the nation is the site of various foreign military bases, including Camp Lemonia. The Intergovernmental Authority on Development regional body also has its headquarters in Djibouti City. History. The Djibouti area has been inhabited since at least the Neolithic. According to linguists, the first Afro-Asiatic-speaking populations arrived in the region during this period from the families proposed their Heimat in the Nile Valley, or the Near East. Other scholars propose that the Afro-Asiatic family developed in situ in the Horn, with its speakers subsequently dispersing from there. Pottery predating the mid-2nd millennium has been found at Ashakoma, an inland lake area on the Gobard Plain. The site's ware is characterized by punctate and incision geometric designs, which bear a similarity to the Sabir culture or Phase I ceramics from Malaba in southern Arabia. Long-horned humpless cattle bones have likewise been discovered at Ashakoma, suggesting that domesticated cattle was present by around 3,500 years ago. Rock art of what appear to be antelopes and a giraffe are also found at Jora and Balyo. Additionally, between Djibouti City and Loyada are a number of anthropomorphic and phallic stelae. The structures are associated with graves of rectangular shape flanked by vertical slabs, as also found in central Ethiopia. The Djibouti Loyada stelae are of uncertain age, and some of them are adorned with a T-shaped symbol. Together with northern Somalia, Eritrea and the Red Sea coast of Sudan, Djibouti is considered the most likely location of the territory known to the ancient Egyptians as Punt. The first mention of the land of Punt dates to the 25th century BC. The Puntites were a nation of people who had close relations with ancient Egypt during the times of Pharaoh Sahuri and Queen Hatshepsut. According to the temple reliefs at Deir el-Bahari, the land of Punt was ruled at that time by King Parahu and Queen Ati. Through close contacts with the adjacent Arabian Peninsula for more than 1,000 years, the Somali and Afar ethnic groups in the region became among the first populations on the continent to embrace Islam. The Ifat Sultanate was a medieval kingdom in the Horn of Africa. Founded in 1285 by the Wall-Ashma dynasty, it was centered in Zila. IFAT established bases in Djibouti and northern Somalia, and from there expanded southward to the Ama Mountains. Its Sultan Umar Wal-Ashma is recorded as having conquered the Sultanate of Shewa in 1285. Tadessa Tamrat explains Sultan Umar's military expedition as an effort to consolidate the Muslim territories in the Horn, in much the same way as Emperor Yekuno Amlik was attempting to unite the Christian territories in the highlands during the same period. These two states inevitably came into conflict over Shewa and territories further south. A lengthy war ensued, but the Muslim sultanates of the time were not strongly unified. IFAT was finally defeated by Emperor Amdacian I of Ethiopia in 1332, and withdrew from Shewa. From 1862 until 1894, the land to the north of the Gulf of Tadjoura was called Obok and was ruled by Somali and Afar sultans. Local authorities with whom France signed various treaties between 1883 and 1887 to first gain a foothold in the region. In 1894, Eliaquot once Lagarde established a permanent French administration in the city of Djibouti and named the region French Somaliland. It lasted from 1896 until 1967, when it was renamed the Territoire Français des Afars et des Isis. In 1958, on the eve of neighboring Somalia's independence in 1960, a referendum was held in Djibouti to decide whether to join the Somali Republic or to remain with France. The referendum turned out in favor of a continued association with France, partly due to a combined yes vote by the sizable Afar ethnic group and resident Europeans. There were also allegations of widespread vote rigging. The majority of those who had voted no were Somalis who were strongly in favor of joining a united Somalia as had been proposed by Mahmoud Harbour, vice president of the Government Council. Harbour was killed in a plane crash 2 years later. In 1967, a second plebiscite was held to determine the fate of the territory. Initial results supported a continued but looser relationship with France. Voting was also divided along ethnic lines, with the resident Somalis generally voting for independence, with the goal of eventual union with Somalia, and the Afars largely opting to remain associated with France. However, the referendum was again marred by reports of vote rigging on the part of the French authorities. Shortly after the referendum was held, the former Côte Française des Somalis was renamed to Territoire Français des Afars et des Isis. In 1977, a third referendum took place. A landslide 98.8% of the electorate supported disengagement from France, officially marking Djibouti's independence. Hassan Gould Abtidin, a Somali politician who had campaigned for a yes vote in the referendum of 1958, eventually wound up as the nation's first president. During its first year, Djibouti joined the Organization of African Unity, the Arab League and United Nations. In 1986, the nascent republic was also among the founding members of the Intergovernmental Authority on Development Regional Development Organization. In the early 1990s, tensions over government representation led to armed conflict between Djibouti's ruling People's Rally for Progress Party and the Front for the Restoration of Unity and Democracy opposition group. The impasse ended in a power-sharing agreement in 2000. Politics. Djibouti is a semi-presidential republic, with executive power resting in the central government, and legislative power in both the government and the Djiboutian National Assembly. Governance. The president, currently Ismail Omar Guelleh, is the preeminent figure in Djiboutian politics, the head of state and commander-in-chief. The president shares executive power with his or her appointee, the prime minister, currently Abdelkader Kamal Mohammed. The Council of Ministers is responsible to the legislature and presided over by the president. The judicial system consists of courts of first instance, a High Court of Appeal, and a Supreme Court. The legal system is a blend of French civil law, Sharia and customary law of the Somali and Afar peoples. The National Assembly is the country's legislature, consisting of 65 members elected every 5 years. Although unicameral, the constitution provides for the creation of a Senate. The last election was held on the 22nd of February 2013. Djibouti is a one-party dominant state, with the People's Rally for Progress controlling the legislature and the executive since its foundation in 1979. Opposition parties are allowed limited freedom, but the main opposition party, the Union for National Salvation, boycotted the 2005 and 2008 elections, citing government control of the media and repression of the opposition candidates. The government is dominated by the Somali Issa Dir clan, who enjoy the support of the Somali clans, especially the Gadab or Dir clan. The country emerged from a decade-long civil war at the end of the 1990s, with the government and the Front for the Restoration of Unity and Democracy signing a peace treaty in 2000. Two FRUD members subsequently joined the cabinet, and beginning with the presidential elections of 1999, the FRUD has campaigned in support of the RPP. Djibouti's current president, Galère, succeeded Hassan Ould Abtidjan in office in 1999. Galère was sworn in for his second six-year term after a one-man election on 8 April 2005. He took 100% of the votes in a 78.9% turnout. In early 2011, the Djiboutian citizenry took part in a series of protests against the long-serving government, which were associated with the larger Arab Spring demonstrations. Galère was re-elected to a third term later that year, with 80.63% of the vote in a 75% turnout. Although opposition groups boycotted the ballot over changes to the constitution permitting Galère to run again for office, international observers generally described the election as free and fair. On 31 March 2013, Galère replaced long-serving Prime Minister Delaita Mohamed Delaita with former President of the Union for a Presidential Majority Abdel Kader Kamal Mohammed. In December 2014, the ruling Union for the Presidential Majority also signed a framework agreement with the Union of National Salvation Coalition, which paves the way for opposition legislators to enter parliament and for reformation of the National Electoral Agency. Military and foreign relations. The Djibouti Armed Forces include the Djibouti National Army, which consists of the Coastal Navy, the Djiboutian Air Force, and the National Gendarmerie. As of 2010, the manpower available for military service was 170,386 males and 221,411 females aged 16 to 49. Djibouti spent over $36 million USD annually on its military as of 2011. The first war which involved the Djiboutian armed forces was the Djiboutian Civil War between the Djiboutian government, supported by France, and the Front for the Restoration of Unity and Democracy. The war lasted from 1991 to 2001, although most of the hostilities ended when the moderate factions of FRUD signed a peace treaty with the government after suffering an extensive military setback when the government forces captured most of the rebel-held territory. A radical group continued to fight the government, but signed its own peace treaty in 2001. The war ended in a government victory, and FRUD became a political party. Djibouti has fought in clashes against Eritrea over the Ras Dumera Peninsula, which both countries claim to be under their sovereignty. The first clash occurred in 1996 after a nearly two-month standoff. In 1999, a political crisis occurred when both sides accused each other of supporting its enemies. In 2008, the countries clashed again when Djibouti refused to return Eritrean deserters and Eritrea responded by firing at the Djiboutian forces. As the headquarters of the IGAD regional body, Djibouti has been an active participant in the Somalian peace process. hosting the ATA conference in 2000. Following the establishment of the federal government of Somalia in 2012, a Djibouti delegation also attended the inauguration ceremony of Somalia's new president. In 2001, the Djiboutian government leased the former French military base Camp Lemonnier to the United States Central Command for operations related to Combined Joint Task Force Horn of Africa. In 2009, Central Command transitioned responsibilities in Africa to AFRICOM. France's 13th Demi-Brigade of the Foreign Legion is based in Djibouti, but not in Djibouti City. Administrative divisions. Djibouti is sectioned into 5 administrative regions and 1 city. It is further subdivided into 11 districts. Geography. Location and habitat. Djibouti is situated in the Horn of Africa on the Gulf of Aden and the Bab el-Mandeb, at the southern entrance to the Red Sea. It lies between latitudes 10 degrees and 13 degrees north, and longitudes 41 degrees and 44 degrees east, within the Arabian Plate. The country's coastline stretches 314 kilometers, with terrain consisting mainly of plateau, plains and highlands. Djibouti has a total area of 23,200 square kilometers. Its borders extend 506 kilometers, 113 kilometers of which are shared with Eritrea, 337 kilometers with Ethiopia, and 58 kilometers with Somalia. Djibouti has 8 mountain ranges with peaks of over 1,000 meters. The Musa Ali Range is considered the country's highest mountain range, with the tallest peak on the border with Ethiopia and Eritrea. It has an elevation of 2,028 meters. The Grand Bahra Desert covers parts of southern Djibouti in the Ata, Ali Sabia and Dikil regions. The majority of it sits at a relatively low elevation, below 1,700 feet. Extreme geographic points include, to the north, Ras Dalmira and the point at which the border with Eritrea enters the Red Sea in the Obok region; to the east, a section of the Red Sea coast north of Ras Bur; to the south, a location on the border with Ethiopia west of the town of Azella; and to the west, a location on the frontier with Ethiopia immediately east of the Ethiopian town of Afambo. Most of Djibouti is part of the Ethiopian xeric grasslands and shrublands ecoregion. The exception is a strip along the Red Sea coast, which is part of the Eritrean coastal desert. Climate. Djibouti's climate is significantly warmer and has significantly less seasonal variation than the world average. Mean daily maximum temperatures range from 32 to 41 degrees Celsius, except at high elevations, where the effects of a cold offshore current can be felt. In Djibouti City, for instance, average afternoon highs range from 28 to 34 degrees Celsius in April. Nationally, mean daily minimums usually vary from 15 to 30 degrees Celsius. The greatest range in climate occurs in eastern Djibouti, where temperatures sometimes surpass 41 degrees Celsius in July on the littoral plains and the freezing point during December in the highlands. In this region, relative humidity ranges from about 40% in the mid-afternoon to 85% at night, changing somewhat according to the season. Djibouti's climate ranges from arid in the northeastern coastal regions to semi-arid in the central, northern, western and southern parts of the country. On the eastern seaboard, annual rainfall is less than 5 inches. In the central highlands, precipitation is about 8 to 11 inches. The hinterland is significantly less humid than the coastal regions. The coast has the mildest climates in Djibouti. Wildlife. The country's flora and fauna live in a harsh landscape, with forest accounting for less than 1% of the total area of the country. Wildlife is spread over 3 main regions, namely, from the northern mountain region of the country to the volcanic plateau in its southern and central part and culminating in the coastal region. Most species of wildlife are found in the northern part of the country, in the ecosystem of the Day Forest National Park. At an average altitude of 1,500 meters, the area includes the Goda Massif, with a peak of 1,783 meters. It covers an area of 3.5 square kilometers of Juniperus procera forest, with many of the trees rising to 20 meters height. It also contains many species of woody and herbaceous plants, including boxwood and olive trees, which account for 60% of the total identified species in the country. According to the country profile related to biodiversity of wildlife in Djibouti, the nation contains more than 820 species of plants, 493 species of invertebrates, 455 species of fish, 40 species of reptiles, 3 species of amphibians, 360 species of birds and 66 species of mammals. Wildlife of Djibouti is also listed as part of Horn of Africa Biodiversity Hotspot and the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden Coral Reef Hotspot.